Fitchburg Police received a call about an armed robbery at Ray's Variety Store on River Street in Fitchburg. Fitchburg Police began pursuit of a red Nissan Altima. The car was pursued up Route 31 to Route 119 in Ashby. The car pursuit then continued from Ashburnham into Ridge, New Hampshire. The Fitchburg Police Department stopped their pursuit at the Massachusetts-New Hampshire border. New Hampshire authorities were contacted at this point, and at approximately 9:15 a.m., New Hampshire State Police found the Altima off Route 119 in Ridge, New Hampshire. The car was occupied in a driveway of a home in Ridge. Ridge Police received a report of two women who were in some woods at approximately 10 a.m. The two suspects are reported to have stolen a gray Hyundai and headed back to Massachusetts. At approximately 10:30 a.m., Westminster Police began a pursuit of a gray Hyundai. The pursuit continued back to Fitchburg, down Route 12, and eventually to Old South Street, where the vehicle rammed a cruiser and crashed at Hayward Street. The vehicle then continued its attempted getaway and rammed several police cruisers, striking several in the process, and also ignored police officers' warnings to stop. The vehicle was used as a weapon of escape. The driver was eventually shot. The driver was transported to Leominster Hospital, where she was pronounced dead at about 11 a.m. this morning. The passenger is identified as Janine M. O'Connor, 40 years old, of Billerica, Mass. She is charged with armed robbery and will be arraigned in the Fitchburg District Court tomorrow. Fitchburg's police and Massachusetts State Police are continuing their investigation at this time. Are there any questions? Yes.
Do you have the victim's name, the person who died?
Pending notification of next of kin, that is not going to be released just yet.
It was an armed robbery? Because originally we heard it was an unarmed robbery at the convenience store.
That's part of the investigation right now. As it stands right now, the passenger in the vehicle will be arraigned on a charge of armed robbery tomorrow.
Was there any weapon, did they have any weapons? Any weapons recovered?
That's part of the investigation at this point. I'm letting the state police and the Fitchburg police continue their investigation. It's too early in the investigation to get into that.
No shots fired?
No shots fired on whose part?
On the police? No shots fired at the police?
It's still part of the investigation. Best reports are at this time that there were not shots fired at the police.
Can you describe the circumstances under which the suspect was shot? Was she, had she crashed the car and then you've gotten out of the car? How did that happen?
It's all part of the investigation. The most I can get into at this point is that the vehicle was used as a weapon and a means of escape. The driver of the vehicle ignored police officers' warnings. She was shot after ramming several cruisers. Fitchburg police and state police were involved in the pursuit of the vehicle. She was shot after using the car as a means and a weapon of escape.
So she was in the car when she was shot?
I can't get into that at this point. It's still part of the investigation. Very early in the investigation, keep in mind that this was just several hours ago. We're letting the police do what they need to do with regards to the investigation. I do not want to be presumptive at this point. The best information I can give you at this point is that the car was used as a weapon. Warnings to stop were ignored. The car had stopped at one point earlier in the pursuit, made it up to New Hampshire, and then came back.
How are the officers doing?
As best as can be expected. Right now, they're on administrative leave, but I've got to emphasize that that's just standard procedure when you have a shooting.
They were brought to the hospital, though.
3 police officers were brought to the hospital for injuries and were later released.
Injuries from the pursuit, the whole,
Throughout the course of the whole day, yes.
So will there now ensue an investigation into, obviously, whether this was justified? This is where we are right now?
Well, I'm not going to be presumptive on anything. I'm going to let the state police do their investigation right now. Jurisdiction for the whole case has been handed over from Fitchburg to the state police, but we're still, from the beginning to end, we're making a review of everything that happened today, making sure that all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. It'd be presumptive for me at this point that everything that happened today is going to be reviewed and re-reviewed.
Can you tell us if the two women had, we're talking about 2 women, correct?
Yes.
If they had any, if they were known to the police, had any prior offenses?
Yes, the deceased was well known to the police, had an extensive record.
Do you have an age for her?
I can't release anything at this point.
Not even an age, just
No.
Well, the nature of her prior offenses?
Nature of the prior offenses ranges from drug offenses to other varied offenses. I don't have her block in front of me right now, but it is extensive.
City or town she's from?
There are over 90 entries within her block.
City or town she's from?
I can't give that information at this point. When we do have that, when we have made notification, we will release that information.
Did either of them have ties to Fitchburg? Billerica seems like a pretty far way to go, too.
That's all part of the investigation now.
Can you tell us a little bit about the speed of the chase? Can we call this a high-speed chase?
Yes.
Through these communities up into New Hampshire?
In the initial pursuit, it was extremely high-speed chase.
Any idea how fast?
Ideas, but once again, I'm going to let the police do a little bit more work on that. And at the point where the pursuit had ended, prior to the vehicle getting into New Hampshire, that was part of the chase where the speeds had reached their highest peak. But once again, I'm going to let the state police do what they need to do. New Hampshire authorities were notified. There was a helicopter that was put into the air. They had dogs on the ground. It was very well coordinated. When they got up to this point, they had gotten out of that car, got into the woods, stole another vehicle, and headed back.
Was that a strong arm car theft, or was it the car unoccupied when they stole it?
Still part of the investigation. Don't have that information at this point.
Were both cars stolen, the red one and the gray one?
I know the second one was stolen. As far as the first, it's still part of the investigation.
And the second woman was arrested at the scene. Was she out of the car? Was she taken into custody without any kind of problem?
Well, she was the passenger in the vehicle and was arrested at the scene.
Did she know the police?
Yes, she's also known to the police.
Does she have an extensive record as the driver did?
No, not as an extensive record as the driver.
Can you tell us a little bit about the three officers? How many officers were involved? And it's probably you haven't determined which officer's gun fired the shot, or maybe you have. Can you tell us a little bit about their experience on the force?
Well-trained officers. We had well over a dozen officers involved throughout the course of the pursuits today. But it's early in the investigation. Everything's being pieced together now. As far as the gun that was used, I can't comment on that. Again, I've got to let the state police do the work that they need to do on this before I comment. We want to make sure that everything is presented just the way it did happen.
Was the victim shot more than once?
I can't get into that at this point.
When did Fitchburg Police enter into the chase? I know Westminster was chasing them out of Westminster into Fitchburg, so
Yeah, that happened at approximately 10:30.
where did Fitchburg Police catch up with?
Yeah, again, that's still part of the investigation. They picked up after the other town had, radioed ahead that this is where they were headed. That's when their part of the investigation took over, when their part of the pursuit did take over.
What type of injuries did the cops suffer?
They were minor injuries. Minor injuries, they were, like I said, they were treated and released.
The woman who died, she died at the scene or at the hospital?
Died at the hospital. Was
What
pronounced
hospital?
dead at Leominster Hospital, Leominster, UMass, at approximately 11 a.m.
Well, it sounds as if the police officers had a harrowing experience from a human point of view. This must have been a very tough situation for them.
It was. This was a situation where the police had to do the best they could, given circumstances. You had cruisers being hit. The car was being used as a weapon. Authorities had drawn guns in New Hampshire. They got out of New Hampshire. They got back to Massachusetts. There was nothing easy about this, from start to finish. But it was, in terms of the way it was pursued, it was handled in the most professional manner they could, up until the point where, orders were given to exit the vehicle. The vehicle, like I said, struck several cars. It was used as a weapon, a means of escape, a weapon for escape.
The officers felt that their lives were threatened?
Part of the investigation, but we'll let the investigation go a little bit further and speak for itself.
Did you say New Hampshire had their guns drawn on them? Was
Yes.
this during a foot chase? They actually saw the woman?
Part of the investigation still, but what I can tell you is it got to the point, it escalated to the point where guns were drawn in New Hampshire, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I can't get any further into that at this point.
In the woods or when they were in the car?
I don't have anything further on that at this
Did police leave their cruisers at all before she started ramming into them?
At several points throughout the pursuit, yes, at the beginning of the pursuit and at the end of the pursuit, there were police officers outside their vehicles,
At the end?
at the beginning and at the end.
And were the police officers trying to position their cars to stop and that's how they rammed into them, or can you describe a little bit about that?
The police officers were trying to get the vehicle to stop. that car, that automobile that the suspect was in, was being used as a weapon. So yes, it in no any way, shape, or form followed police officers' orders to stop or to exit the vehicle. It was used as a weapon. Several cruises were in.
What was the scene in the variety store? A woman walked in and asked for money, or what?
It was a robbery.
Okay.
Two women walked in and there was a robbery.
There was two women that
Yes.
walked in, okay.
How much you could tell us how much was taken, do you know?
Still being determined at this point. I'll tell you this, the variety store just opened up. It wasn't a lot of cash.
It wasn't a lot of money.
It was not.
This morning, we were told by Fitchburg Police that the person was charged with unarmed robbery. At what point today were those charges upgraded to armed robbery?
Well, I can just tell you, from our perspective, I don't know where you got that information. We've had it as an armed robbery all along. But once again, you know, the investigations will take us where the facts lead us. Right now, it appears it's a charge of armed robbery. That will be dealt with as the investigation proceeds, and we learn exactly what the complete circumstances were with regards to the robbery. I can tell you it was a robbery. I can tell you that cash was taken out of the register. Two women were in the store, and it was Ray's Variety Store.
But you don't have information again about the weapon that they had.
Still part of the investigation.
Or whether they even had a weapon.
Still part of the investigation.
And it's Janine O'Connor, 40 years old, in Worcester.
Yes, she was the passenger.
So she's charged with armed robbery and what else?
Armed robbery.
Could this become an armed robbery charge just by virtue of the fact that she was using the car as a weapon?
There's a lot of different circumstances that can play out, yes, but once again, I'm going to let the state police do what they need to do.
Can we get a picture of that?
No, we don't have a picture of her at this point that I can release.
Can we take a picture of the car involved?
No, we can't do that at this time. There's still some parts of the investigation pending. I don't want to do anything to jeopardize the investigation. Once again, we're using the utmost care we can with regards to this. There's been a loss of life. It's been an extensive pursuit. We want to make sure that everything we need to do is done.
Those 90 things, and the roughly 90 things in that sleeve, are they them violent crimes?
You know, I can have Mr. Connolly talk to you a little bit more about that. It's an extensive record, but I'd have to take another look at that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.